The trouble is the more tension between Keir Starmer and Elon Musk, the less likely it is that we're going to see a bigger clampdown on social media companies. Keir Starmer keeps saying he wants to speak to social media companies, Meta, Google and X. But if these two are at loggerheads with each other, it seems less and less likely that Elon Musk is going to, listen to the government here and have tighter restrictions on his platform.
The government has insisted that there is capacity in the prison and court systems to deliver the swift justice for rioters promised by the Prime Minister. Nearly 400 arrests have been made across the UK after a week of violent disorder. On Times Radio Breakfast, the Justice Minister Heidi Alexander was asked if the criminal justice system could cope.
We will make it work because these are extraordinary circumstances and we need to be delivering swift justice. We've obviously had a very robust police response to what has been going on our streets and in our communities, but the way we are going to stop this is if we deliver swift and effective justice.
I'm joined now by Times Radio's political correspondent Alicia Fitzgerald. Alicia, what can the government do to deliver this swift justice?
Well, so there are a number of things that Keir Starmer and the government are talking about. And the first, perhaps most interesting thing is the fact that the Justice Secretary is saying there is capacity in the prisons to actually make sure anyone charged and found guilty is able to actually go to prison if necessary. Now, I know that will raise a few eyebrows because for the last few months, all we've been hearing is that our prison system is really overwhelmed. And I'm not the best at maths, but just looking at some quick calculations, in July, just a month ago, there were only 1,451 prison spaces available across the whole country. Labour are saying that because of their new prison policy to free up some of those spaces through a slightly early release for low-level criminals, that will create enough space for anyone charged to actually be able to go to prison. By my calculation, it's going to be pretty tight. Whether they might just have enough spaces, it kind of remains to be seen how quickly the people go through the justice system, but it will definitely be tight nonetheless. So it'll be interesting to see how that one unravels.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, a lot of people are getting out early. They would have had their sentences reduced anyway. It's normal practice for people not to serve their full sentence. Presumably, though, people will ask, well, if you send a rioter to prison for 6 months, are they going to serve 6 months or 3 months?
Well, this is it as well. So the Labour policy is that anyone who was due to leave prison at 50% of their due time will now go at 40% of their due time instead. Yeah. So it's not a drastic difference here, but what they're saying is it will actually just quickly clear up quite a few spaces. This policy, though, doesn't actually come into action until the 1st of September. So until then, we're going to see more criminals. And we have to remember as well that the riots aren't going to be the only crimes happening across the whole of the country in the next couple of months. Sadly, there will be other reasons that other people would need to go to prison. So it is a very restricted system. There isn't enough space at the moment. But what Labour is saying is that once that policy kicks in, they can hopefully free up the spaces. The question about whether or not these rioters will face that same policy, the early release policy, it depends about what they're charged for. So this policy will apply to certain low-level criminals, and it's not quite clear yet what exactly each of these rioters who are being convicted or potentially convicted would be charged for. We've already had a couple of dozen of them in court, and that's another thing. The courts are probably going to be sitting 24 hours now to try and speed up this process. But it really depends about what the charges are, about whether or not they'll be part of the early release.
And what are people saying about the Prime Minister going head-to-head with Elon Musk?
Well, it's a nightmare, to be honest, because Keir Starmer is saying that X, the platform that Elon Musk is in charge of effectively, has played a role in inciting this, because that is where lots of the misinformation was shared and where it's come from. And that's where lots of people are organising protests and things like that. And Elon Musk has seen some of the blame shifted onto him, for example, for allowing people like Tommy Robinson back onto the platform in November when Elon Musk took over. So Keir Starmer is saying that lots of this is the fault of social media companies, but Elon Musk is then obviously going back and, having a little pop at Keir Starmer online. And the trouble is the more tension between Keir Starmer and Elon Musk, the less likely it is that we're going to see a bigger clampdown on social media companies. Keir Starmer keeps saying he wants to speak to social media companies, Meta, Google and X. But if these two are at loggerheads with each other, it seems less and less likely that Elon Musk is going to, listen to the government here and have tighter restrictions on his platform.
Brilliant. Alicia Fitzgerald, Times Radio's political correspondent. Thank you very much for coming in, updating us on what is happening with the politics, as it were, around the riots. The Times reports today that far-right groups are also plotting to attack asylum lawyers. So apparently on the messaging app Telegram, details of immigration lawyers across England have been listed, along with deeply unpleasant things like advice on how to make a petrol bomb and arson manuals as well. We talked about this earlier with an immigration lawyer from Brentford. Let's talk now to Nick Emerson. He's the president of the Law Society of England and Wales, which is, of course, the body that oversees the legal profession. Welcome to the show, Nick.
Thank you. Good morning. Good afternoon, sorry. Yeah.
It's pretty unprecedented, this, thinking about it, actually. I can't think of another time when there's been any kind of talk about a coordinated attack on legal offices. I mean, is it the first time you've ever come across something like this?
Yes, it is. It's certainly on this scale and using social media to do that. And this message lists 39 immigration solicitors firms and advice agencies from all across the country, promoting further violence and protests this week, describing them as targets, and even advises its recipients to mask up. So we are taking this very seriously. I've written to the Prime Minister, the Home Secretary and the Lord Chancellor, asking them to take threats to the legal profession very seriously. And this, basically is a direct assault on our legal profession. And that's also a direct assault on our democratic values. And we're also advising members themselves, who we've all contacted individually, to contact their local police force, boost their security, and how to look after their members, both their clients and their staff online and in the physical reality that they're facing.
I mean, what kind of organisation is the Law Society? Do you have the kind of resources potentially to coordinate what is going on around the country in terms of threats being received by individual legal offices, or to collate top-level advice about how to protect yourselves and things like that?
Yeah, we represent every single solicitor across the country, all 200,000 of them. So we do have a in-depth knowledge of who our members are, and we can contact them locally very easily. But also we have various committees and also various local law societies that we deal with as well. So yes, we definitely have our finger on the pulse of this in our membership.
Brilliant. Well, that is good to hear. It is, as I say, unprecedented, I think, coming to think about it, that there has been a coordinated attack on legal offices around the UK. That was Nick Emerson, the president of the Law Society of England and Wales, talking about how the legal profession is trying to respond to this.